right. So today we're going to be taking a trip to Ireland.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And, we're going to be trying to figure out if
Okay.
Portumna Castle is worth a visit,
Got it.
if you should put it on your itinerary.
Hmm.
And our guide for this is going to be the Love Ireland newsletter.
Oh, cool.
So
Sounds good.
the newsletter starts out by describing it.
Okay.
It says Portumna Castle's a semi-fortified house,
Uh-huh.
which immediately piqued my interest.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what that means architecturally.
Right.
I mean, what do you think of when you hear that term?
Well, semi-fortified, I think it's a good description because it hints at a mix of styles,
Yeah.
So it's not, a super fortified castle,
Right.
but it's also not just like a regular
Yeah.
country house.
Yeah.
So it's got to have some features that are designed to hold up under attack.
Okay. So not a full-blown fortress,
Yeah.
but definitely prepared for trouble. All right. Well, the newsletter goes on to tell us that it was built in the early 17th century
Oh, wow.
by Richard Burke, the 4th Earl of Clanricarde.
Okay.
Can you imagine the stories that those walls could tell?
Yeah, I mean, the 17th century in Ireland was a
Yeah.
period of a lot of change.
Right.
The English rule was expanding. And
Okay.
so I think that although it was supposed to be, like a family home
Right.
on Lough Derg,
Yeah.
it also, was probably built to give them a sense of security because
Yeah.
of all the
Yeah.
upheaval going on.
So speaking of stories, the newsletter includes this great travel tip
Okay.
from one of their readers.
Oh, cool.
Her name is Kathleen McCarter,
Hmm.
and she highly recommends taking a guided tour
Okay.
of Portumna Castle when you visit.
Makes sense.
She says you get a lot more information that way
Yeah,
than if you just wander around on your own.
for sure.
What do you think about that?
I think she's absolutely right. I
Yeah.
mean, having a guide is like really important,
It is.
especially if you want to understand the place.
Yeah.
You get all those little details and anecdotes and legends that
Yeah.
you'd never find in a book.
That's cool. Yeah, like unlocking a hidden layer of history.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, speaking of history,
Okay.
the newsletter mentions that Portumna Castle
Hmm.
is near Portumna Abbey.
Wow. Okay.
I have to wonder what the connection is between the two.
Yeah, that's
You
interesting.
get a castle and an abbey right next to each other.
Yeah.
What do you think their relationship might have been?
Well, it's a cool contrast, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have the castle, which is,
Right.
Secular power,
Yeah,
and then the abbey,
right.
which represents spiritual life.
Yeah.
And so it really speaks to
Mm.
what was happening in 17th century Ireland.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I wonder if, the people from the castle
Yeah.
went to the abbey
Yeah, probably right.
or if they supported it.
Yeah.
It's really making me curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to know more.
You too?
But before we get too lost in the history, there's one more thing from the newsletter I
Right.
wanted to share
Okay.
about Irish pub culture,
Uh-oh.
which I know you love.
Of course, yeah.
So get this. Sean's Bar in Athlone, Ireland,
Okay.
is officially recognized as the oldest pub in the world
Really?
by the National Museum of Ireland.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Like all the history,
I know.
all the stories that place has seen.
Makes you want to go visit, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure.
But for now, let's get back to Portumna Castle
Okay, sounds good.
and see what other treasures we can unearth.
Let's go. The newsletter mentions that the castle is on Lough Derg.
Uh-huh.
And that probably wasn't just a random choice.
Oh, really?
Back then in the 17th century,
Right.
waterways were super important
Yeah.
for trade and transportation.
Okay.
So building it right there where the River Shannon
Yeah.
goes into the lake
Yeah.
would give them a strategic advantage. So it wasn't just about the view.
Exactly.
It was strategic too.
It was a smart move.
All right, well, the newsletter doesn't say too much about
Yeah.
the castle's semi-fortified design,
Right.
but what kind of features do you think that means?
Well, I think it probably had thicker walls
Oh, okay.
than, a normal house.
Right.
Maybe reinforced with stone or brick.
Okay.
And then they might have had defensive things, like
Oh.
narrow windows placed really strategically
Okay.
so they could get light, but also protect themselves.
So they could shoot arrows out,
Yeah, like archers could shoot.
but it would be harder for enemies to get in.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Right.
And I bet there are some hidden things too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like what?
Like maybe a secret passage
Oh, cool.
or a secret room
Ooh.
where they could hide valuables.
Or even themselves if they had to.
Exactly.
It really makes you want to explore every inch of that place.
Oh, yeah, totally.
This is why it's good to have a guide.
I know, right?
Like Kathleen said,
Yeah,
they could point out all those details.
exactly, and tell you what they mean.
It's like having your own personal detective.
Right.
I'm starting to think differently about sightseeing now.
Me too. It's like
Yeah.
when you start to learn about history,
Yeah.
you begin to see more than just the surface of things.
It's all about the layers.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so before we wrap up,
Okay.
I want to go back to something we were talking about before.
Sure.
Remember how the castle is near Portumna Abbey?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What if we try to picture the lives, the people who live there?
Yeah.
Like imagine a day in the 17th century.
Okay.
Sun's rising over Lough Derg.
Uh-huh.
You got the castle on one side,
Yeah.
the abbey on the other.
Beautiful.
Inside the castle, the servants are getting everything ready for the day.
Right, and maybe the Earl and his family are having a prayer or going to a service at the abbey.
What if the Earl, talked to the abbot?
Oh, yeah, that's possible.
For advice or support.
Totally. The abbey would have been a place where people went for guidance.
Yeah.
And to learn things.
I can just imagine people going to the abbey for morning mass.
Yeah.
And maybe stopping to chat with the castle servants.
Yeah, or trade goods or hear the latest gossip.
And then later on, as the sun sets, you can hear the monks chanting in the abbey.
Beautiful.
Their voices echoing all the way to the castle.
Yeah.
Pretty cool to think that these two different places were connected.
They shared the same landscape.
Yeah.
The same rhythms of life.
And maybe even the same hopes and fears.
Yeah. It really is a beautiful thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
The castle and the abbey. Like each one was a big part of people's lives back then.
Right. And it reminds us that history isn't just dates and battles and stuff.
It's exact.
It's about how people lived.
Yeah, their everyday lives.
Yeah, their beliefs and struggles and all that.
Their hopes and dreams.
Yeah, and it makes exploring a place like Portumna Castle so much more interesting.
Right.
It's not just an old building.
Still a time capsule.
Yeah, it's a glimpse into the past.
Totally.
I think we learned a lot about Portumna Castle today.
We have.
From its unique design.
Yeah, that semi-fortified style.
And its location on the lake.
All right.
To its connection with Portumna Abbey. It sounds like a really cool place to visit.
It does. And don't forget
Yeah.
what Kathleen said in the newsletter.
About the guided tour.
Yeah, definitely take a guided tour.
Yeah, it's the best way to really dig into the history.
And see all those hidden details.
So if you ever find yourself in Ireland, make sure to add Portumna Castle to your list.
For sure.
Take in the atmosphere.
Yeah, let your imagination run wild.
Picture the monks chanting.
As the sun sets.
And really just think about the people who live there.
The earls and the monks and...
Yeah, all the everyday people.
What stories would they tell if they could?
Yeah, what secrets would they share?
Think about that when you visit.
Yeah, and see what connections you can make to their world.
It's a fascinating journey.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for today.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Yeah, it was fun.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.